The fluorescent lights of Chicago Memorial's emergency room buzzed with their usual 11 p.m. hum. Riley Chen had been on her feet for 13 hours straight, and her lower back screamed with every step she took across the scuffed linoleum floor. Her scrubs, once crisp navy blue at the start of her shift, now bore the evidence of a chaotic Saturday night coffee stains, antiseptic splash marks, and a small tear near the hem from catching on a gurney wheel. "Riley, bed 7 needs vitals," called out Dr. Patel, not looking up from his chart. "On it," she replied automatically, forcing her aching feet to move faster. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. The mandatory non-slip shoes that the hospital required felt like they were filled with concrete after this many hours. She should have been home by now. Her shift had officially ended at 9, but when Maria called in sick for the overnight, Riley couldn't say no. She needed every extra hour, every additional dollar that overtime provided. The stack of past due notices on her tiny apartment's kitchen counter wasn't going to pay itself. Rent was due in 4 days. She was short by $300. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She didn't need to check it to know it was another automated reminder from the electric company. Final notice before disconnection. She'd deal with it tomorrow, or the next day, or whenever she had a moment to breathe and figure out which bill was most urgent. Riley finished the vitals on bed 7 stable, thankfully, and was headed back to the nurse's station when the automatic doors burst open with their familiar whoosh. What came through those doors made every person in the ER turn and stare. 4 men in expensive dark suits entered first, their eyes scanning the waiting room with the practiced vigilance of trained security. They moved like a unit, 2 breaking left, 2 breaking right, establishing a perimeter that was both subtle and unmistakable. Then he walked in. Tall, perhaps 6'3", with jet black hair styled in a way that suggested both precision and power. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Riley's monthly rent make that 3 months' rent, and moved with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. His jaw was sharp enough to cut glass, his eyes a striking steel gray that swept the emergency room with cold calculation. But it was the girl he carried that caught Riley's attention. She looked about 8 years old, small and delicate in his arms, with the same dark hair as the man. Her face was pale, twisted in obvious pain, and tears streaked down her cheeks, but she wasn't making a sound. Not crying out, not screaming, just silent tears and gasping breaths. The man's expression was granite, but his hands held the girl with such careful gentleness that it created a jarring contrast. "I need a doctor," he said. Not loud, not shouting, but his voice carried across the crowded ER with undeniable authority. Now. Riley's training kicked in before her exhaustion could. She moved toward them immediately, her nurse's assessment already running. The girl was conscious. Breathing seemed labored but not critical. Obvious distress but no visible blood or trauma. "Sir, I'm Riley. I'm a nurse. What happened?" She kept her voice calm, professional, reaching for the girl even as the security detail tensed visibly. The man's gray eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, Riley felt the full weight of his focus. It was intense, almost overwhelming, like being examined under a microscope. She fell. "Playing in the house. She's holding her arm and won't let anyone touch it. She won't." He paused, and something flickered in those cold eyes. Frustration, maybe, or fear. "She won't tell us what's wrong." Riley looked at the girl more closely. The child was cradling her left arm against her chest, and the angle looked wrong. Possible fracture. But what struck Riley most was the girl's face, the way her eyes moved, tracking everything but responding to nothing auditory, the way she looked at her brother's mouth when he spoke. Recognition clicked. "Does she hear?" Riley asked gently. The man's jaw tightened. "No, she's deaf. She communicates through sign language, but none of the staff." He looked around the ER with barely contained anger. "No one here can understand her. She's terrified and in pain, and I can't help her because I can't tell these people what she needs." Riley's heart clenched. She glanced at the girl again, saw the fear and pain and confusion in those young eyes, and made a decision that would change everything. She stepped closer and raised her hands, signing slowly and clearly. "Hello. My name is Riley. I'm a nurse. I'm here to help you. Can you tell me where it hurts?" The transformation on the girl's face was immediate and profound. Her eyes widened, the fear diminishing just slightly, replaced by desperate hope. Her good hand moved rapidly, signs flowing despite her pain. "My arm. I fell from the stairs." It hurts so much. Please help me. I'm scared. I know, sweetie. You're being so brave. Riley signed back, her hands moving with practiced fluidity. I'm going to help you. I promise. Can you tell me your name? Sophia. The girl signed, fresh tears streaming down her face. Sophia Marchesi. Marchesi. The name hit Riley like a physical blow. Everyone in Chicago knew that name. The Marchesi family controlled the entire North Side, their influence extending into businesses both legitimate and otherwise. They were whispered about in the same breath as power, wealth, and danger. And she had just signed to a Marchesi. Riley forced herself to keep her expression neutral, to not let the sudden spike of adrenaline show. She looked up at the man, the brother, and saw him staring at her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. She has a fracture, Riley said, switching to verbal communication. Probably her radius, maybe her ulna too. We need x-rays to confirm, but she needs to be seen immediately. Then make it happen. Not a request. I will, but I need you to... I'm not leaving her. His voice was steel wrapped in silk. Final. Absolute. Riley nodded. She understood that tone. Okay. Follow me. She led them past the waiting room, past the curious stares and whispered conversations that erupted in their wake. The security detail followed at a discreet distance, but Riley could feel their presence like shadows. At the nurse's station, she grabbed Dr. Patel. 8-year-old, possible radius fracture, needs immediate x-ray and assessment. She's deaf, I can translate. Dr. Patel looked at the imposing man holding the small girl and made the same calculation Riley had. This wasn't a situation where you said, wait your turn. Exam room 3, I'll be there in 2 minutes. Riley guided them to the room, helping the man she still didn't know, his first name settle Sophia, onto the examination table. The girl immediately signed to Riley, her good hand moving frantically. Don't leave me. Please don't leave me. Riley's heart broke a little. She signed back without hesitation. I'm staying right here. I promise. Sophia's brother watched this exchange, his expression unreadable. When Riley glanced at him, she found him studying her with those penetrating gray eyes. You're very good at that, he said quietly. Sign language. I learned young, Riley replied, keeping her attention on Sophia, checking her pulse, her color, her breathing. My younger brother is deaf, born that way. Sign language was our first language before I even learned to speak. Where did you learn? Which program? Riley looked up, surprised by the question. No program. My mom taught me. She learned when Tommy was diagnosed. We all learned together, me, my older sister. It was just what we did. Something shifted in his expression. Not softening exactly, but a slight recalibration. What's your name? Riley Chen. Dante Marchesi. He didn't offer his hand, didn't make any move toward social pleasantry, just stated his name like he was declaring ownership of the room. It's nice to meet you, Riley said, though nice seemed like an inadequate word for the situation. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Dr. Patel arrived, and Riley translated as he examined Sophia. The girl was remarkably brave, only flinching when the doctor palpated the injury site. Riley kept signing reassurances, explaining each step of the process. The doctor needs to take pictures of your arm with a special camera, Riley signed. It won't hurt, but you have to stay very still. Can you do that for me? Sophia nodded, her eyes never leaving Riley's face. The x-rays confirmed what Riley had suspected. Clean fracture of the radius, no displacement. Painful, but straightforward. Sophia would need a cast and follow-up, but she'd heal perfectly. Through it all, Dante Marchesi stood like a sentinel. He didn't pace, didn't show obvious distress, but Riley could sense the tension radiating from him. This was a man accustomed to control, to fixing problems with money or power or influence. But he couldn't fix his sister's pain. He couldn't communicate with her in her moment of need. He'd been helpless, and Riley suspected that wasn't a feeling he experienced often. When the orthopedic resident arrived to set the cast, Riley stayed, translating every step. Sophia chose purple for her cast color, and Riley signed encouragement as the young doctor worked. You're doing amazing, Riley told her. So brave. Your brother is very proud of you. Sophia's eyes flicked to Dante, and she signed something quickly. Riley hesitated, then translated aloud. She says, she wants to know if you're going to yell at Marco for letting her climb the stairs. For the first time since entering the ER, Dante's expression shifted. The corner of his mouth lifted in something that might have been a smile on a different man. On him, it looked almost dangerous. "Marco is already fired," he said dryly, though his hands moved to brush Sophia's hair back from her forehead with surprising tenderness. Sophia giggled silently, and Riley felt some of the tension in the room ease. 2 hours later, with Sophia's arm properly casted and pain medication administered, they were ready for discharge. Riley had stayed the entire time, well past when her shift should have ended, translating discharge instructions and making sure Sophia understood how to care for her cast. "She needs to keep it dry," Riley explained, signing simultaneously. "No swimming, no baths, just careful showers with the arm wrapped in plastic. Follow up with orthopedics in 1 week. I'll make sure you get the number for a practice that has ASL interpreters on staff." Dante nodded, absorbing every word. "What about pain management?" "Children's ibuprofen, dosing based on her weight. I've written it all down." Riley handed him the discharge papers, plus a separate sheet where she'd written additional notes. "And I included some resources for pediatric pain management in ASL, so Sophia can communicate if something doesn't feel right." He looked at the extra sheet, then back at Riley. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," Riley said simply. "She's my patient. I want to make sure she's taken care of." Sophia was drowsy from the pain medication, curled against her brother's side as he held her carefully. She signed something slowly, her movements sluggish. "Thank you, Riley. You're nice. I hope I see you again." Riley signed back. "You're welcome, sweet girl. Take care of that arm." Dante stood, lifting Sophia as if she weighed nothing. He looked at Riley for a long moment, those gray eyes assessing her in a way that made her feel simultaneously visible and vulnerable. "Thank you," he said. The words were simple, but something in his tone suggested they didn't come easily to him. "For everything. Just doing my job," Riley replied, though they both knew it had been more than that. As Dante moved toward the door, Sophia suddenly signed something else, her good hand moving with renewed energy despite her exhaustion. Riley couldn't help but smile. She translated aloud. "She says you should give me your phone number so she can text me about her cast." Dante stopped, turned, fixed Riley with a look that was suddenly, intensely focused. "Does she?" he said flatly. "She's 8 and medicated," Riley said quickly. "She doesn't understand. What's your number?" Riley blinked. "I'm sorry?" "Your phone number." Dante shifted Sophia slightly, pulling out his phone with his free hand. "You clearly made an impression on my sister. She'll want updates. She'll want to show you how she decorates her cast." His eyes met Riley's. "And I need to be able to reach the one person in this entire hospital who can actually communicate with her if something goes wrong." It made sense. It was practical. It was about Sophia's medical care. So why did Riley's heart start racing? She recited her number. Dante typed it in one-handed, his movements efficient despite holding a child. "I'll text you so you have mine." Riley's phone buzzed a moment later. "Unknown number. Dante Marchesi. Thank you again for tonight." Before Riley could respond, Dante was already moving toward the exit, his security detail materializing from wherever they'd been lurking. She watched them leave the powerful man, the small girl, the shadows that followed, and felt like she'd just stepped into something much larger than a simple ER visit. "You know who that was, right?" Riley turned to find Dr. Patel beside her, his expression concerned. "Yeah," Riley said quietly. "I know. The Marchesi family isn't." "Doctor," Patel hesitated. "They're not people you want to get involved with, Riley. Whatever just happened, be careful." Riley nodded, but her eyes were still on the doors where Dante and Sophia had disappeared. Her phone buzzed again. "Dante Marchesi. Sophia says you're the nicest nurse in the world. I'm inclined to agree." And then, a moment later, "Dante Marchesi. How much longer is your shift?" Riley stared at the message, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. She should say she had hours left, should establish boundaries, should remember that this was Dante Marchesi, and people like him didn't text nurses at 1 a.m. unless they wanted something. But she was tired, and her feet hurt, and something about the way he'd held his sister like she was the most precious thing in his world had cracked something open in Riley's chest. "Riley. Just finished. About to head home. Dante Marchesi. Where do you live?" Red flags, alarm bells, every instinct screaming that this was inappropriate, dangerous, crossing lines that shouldn't be crossed. "Riley. East Side. Why?" "Dante Marchesi. Because it's 1:30 a.m. and you just spent 3 hours taking care of my sister. The least I can do is make sure you get home safely." Riley, I take the bus. I'll be fine. Dante Marchesi. The bus stopped running an hour ago. Riley checked the CTA app. He was right. The last bus on her route left at 12:45. She'd have to take 2 different routes with a long wait between transfers. Or she'd have to walk. 45 minutes through neighborhoods that got progressively worse the closer she got to her apartment. Riley, I'll manage. Thank you anyway. She pocketed her phone, grabbed her bag from her locker, and headed toward the exit. She was too tired to deal with whatever this was. Too tired to analyze why Dante Marchesi was offering her a ride. Too tired to. He was waiting in the ambulance bay, leaning against a sleek black car that probably cost more than Riley would make in 5 years. Dante Marchesi looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread. He'd loosened his tie, and his suit jacket hung open, but somehow he looked perfectly composed. Behind him, one of his security men stood at attention. Riley stopped short. What are you doing here? Making sure you get home safely. He pushed off the car. You stayed late to help Sophia. The least I can do is ensure you don't get mugged on the bus. I told you I'd be fine. And I don't take unnecessary risks with people who matter. The words hung in the air between them. People who matter. As if Riley mattered to him after 3 hours of translation. Mr. Marchesi, Dante, Riley corrected, trying to keep her voice steady. I appreciate the offer, but I don't need Obi. You worked a 13-hour shift, he interrupted. You stayed 3 hours past when you should have left. You translated. You comforted my sister. You went above and beyond what any nurse was required to do. His gray eyes locked onto hers. Let me do this. Please. There was that word again. Please. It sounded foreign coming from him, like he wasn't accustomed to asking for things. Riley's resistance wavered. Her feet were screaming. The thought of waiting 45 minutes at a bus stop, then walking the final 12 blocks to her apartment alone, in the dark, made her exhaustion double. Okay, she heard herself say. Thank you. Something that might have been satisfaction flickered across Dante's face. He opened the back door of the car, and Riley slid into leather seats so soft they felt like butter. Dante joined her on the other side while his security man took the driver's seat. Address? Dante asked. Riley gave it, watching as the driver pulled out of the hospital parking lot with practiced ease. The silence in the car was heavy. Riley found herself hyper-aware of Dante beside her. The clean scent of his cologne, expensive and subtle. The way he sat with complete stillness. The fact that his presence seemed to fill the entire space despite not touching her. How is Sophia? Riley asked, needing to fill the quiet. Sleeping. The pain medication worked fast. Dante's expression softened almost imperceptibly. She was still talking about you when I left. Well, signing. She says you have kind eyes. Riley felt warmth bloom in her chest. She's a sweet kid, brave too. Not many 8-year-olds handle a fracture that well. She's been through worse. The words came out flat, emotionless, but Riley heard the edge beneath them. How long has she been deaf? Since she was 4. Meningitis. She nearly died. Dante's jaw tightened. She survived, but the hearing loss was permanent. I was 17, had just taken over the family business after my father died. I had to learn sign language while running an empire and raising a 4-year-old who couldn't understand why the world suddenly went silent. Riley's heart clenched. That must have been incredibly difficult. It was necessary. Dante turned to look at her. You do what needs to be done for family, no matter the cost. There was something in his voice, devotion, fierce and absolute. Riley recognized it. She'd felt the same way about Tommy, about learning sign language and making sure he never felt isolated or different. Your brother, Dante said. Tommy, how old is he? 12 now, growing too fast. Riley smiled. He wants to be a software engineer. Says being deaf is actually an advantage because he can code in perfect silence. Smart kid. The smartest. Pride filled her voice. He's everything to me. Him and my sister, Maya. They're why I... She stopped, suddenly aware she was about to share too much. Why you work overtime, Dante finished. Why you look exhausted. Why you're living in a neighborhood no one should walk through at 1:30 a.m. Riley stiffened. You don't know anything about my life. I know you're a nurse at a public hospital working double shifts. I know your shoes are worn through at the heels. I know you said yes to overtime tonight even though you were already at the end of your limit. His voice wasn't judgmental, just factual. I know what struggling looks like, Riley. And what do you know about struggling? The words came out more bitter than she intended. You show up to the ER in a suit that costs thousands of dollars with a security detail and a I was 15 when my father was killed, Dante said quietly. 15 when I became responsible for my mother, my sister, and a business that would have torn itself apart if I'd shown even a moment of weakness. I worked 18-hour days for years. I made decisions that kept me up at night. I struggled, Riley. Just in different ways. Riley fell silent. She'd assumed based on his clothes, his power, his presence that everything had always been easy for him. But she saw it now, beneath the composed exterior. The weight he carried, the responsibility that had been thrust on him too young. I'm sorry, she said. That was unfair of me. Dante waved it off. You're tired. You have every right to be defensive. They pulled onto Riley's street. The contrast to the neighborhoods they'd driven through was stark. Broken streetlights, boarded-up buildings, cars with shattered windows parked on cracked pavement. The driver pulled up to Riley's building, a 5-story walk-up with peeling paint and a front door that didn't lock properly. This is me, Riley said, reaching for the door handle. Dante's hand closed over hers, stopping her. His touch was warm, firm, and sent electricity racing up her arm. Riley. She turned to face him, suddenly very aware of how close they were in the confines of the car. Thank you, he said. For Sophia. For staying. For caring about a little girl you didn't know when you were already exhausted and past your limit. His gray eyes held hers. That kind of compassion is rare. Don't let this city take it from you. Riley's breath caught. There was something in his gaze, admiration maybe, or recognition, like he saw something in her that most people missed. I should go, she whispered. Dante released her hand slowly. Can I ask you something? Okay. Would you be willing to see Sophia again? Not as her nurse, but as a friend. Someone she can talk to. She doesn't have many people in her life who understand her the way you did tonight. Riley should say no, should establish boundaries, should remember that this was the Marchesi family and getting involved meant stepping into a world she knew nothing about. But she thought about Sophia's face when Riley had signed to her. The relief, the hope, the immediate trust. Yes, Riley said. I'd like that. Dante's expression shifted satisfaction and something else. Something that looked almost like possessiveness. Good. I'll be in touch. Riley nodded and slipped out of the car. She was halfway to her building when she heard his voice. Riley. She turned. Dante had lowered the window, his face partially shadowed but his eyes catching the dim streetlight. Lock your door. All the locks. And text me when you're inside safely. It should have felt controlling. Instead, it felt like someone actually caring whether she made it through the night. I will, Riley promised. She climbed the 4 flights to her apartment, unlocked the 3 deadbolts she'd installed herself, and collapsed onto her second-hand couch. Her phone buzzed. Dante Marchesi. Did you lock the door? Riley couldn't help but smile. Riley. Yes. All 3 locks. Dante Marchesi. Good. Get some sleep, Riley Chen. And thank you. Again. Riley set her phone down, her mind spinning. In the span of a few hours, her life had intersected with Dante Marchesi's in a way that felt significant. Dangerous, maybe, but significant. She should be worried. Should be planning her excuses for why she couldn't see Sophia again. Instead, she fell asleep thinking about gray eyes and strong hands holding a small girl with infinite gentleness, and in a penthouse across the city, Dante Marchesi stood at his window, looking out at Chicago's lights, thinking about a nurse with kind eyes who'd stayed late for his sister, thinking about how she'd looked exhausted but determined, struggling but compassionate, real in a way most people in his life weren't, thinking about how he wasn't going to let her walk away. Riley's phone rang at 9 a.m., jarring her from the first real sleep she'd had in days. She fumbled for it, eyes still closed, her body protesting every movement after yesterday's marathon shift. Hello? Her voice was rough with sleep. Did I wake you? Dante's voice was crisp, alert, like he'd been awake for hours. He probably had been. Riley sat up, suddenly very aware that she was talking to Dante Marchesi while wearing a ratty t-shirt, and her hair was probably a disaster. Not that he could see her. It's fine. Is Sophia okay? She's perfect. Already demanding pancakes and asking when she can see you again. There was a pause. I'm calling because I'd like to take you to breakfast. To properly thank you for last night. Riley's brain, still foggy with sleep, struggled to process this. Breakfast? A meal, usually consumed in the morning, involves food and conversation. Was that amusement in his voice? I know what breakfast is, Riley said, more sharply than intended. It's not necessary. I told you, I was just doing my job. Then have breakfast with me anyway, not as payment, as... He seemed to search for the word. As a getting to know you. Sophia is already attached to you. If you're going to be in her life, I'd like to know more about you. Riley should say no. Should maintain professional boundaries. Should not have breakfast with a man who made her heart race and her common sense vanish. What time? She heard herself ask. 30 minutes. I'm already outside your building. Riley shot to her feet, rushing to the window. Sure enough, the same sleek black car from last night idled at the curb, completely out of place on her rundown street. You're what? You can't just show up at someone's apartment. I just did. Clock is ticking, Riley. 29 minutes now. He hung up. Riley stared at her phone in disbelief, then scrambled into action. 29 minutes to make herself presentable for Dante Marchesi. This was insane. This was inappropriate. She was in the shower before she could finish the thought. 28 minutes later, Riley emerged from her building in jeans and a simple green sweater that Maya had given her for her birthday. Her hair was still damp, pulled into a ponytail, and she'd managed minimal makeup. It would have to do. Dante was leaning against the car, looking unfairly perfect in dark jeans and a black button-down with the sleeves rolled to his forearms. Casual for him, probably, but still more put together than Riley had ever managed in her life. His eyes tracked her approach, and something in his expression shifted. Appreciation, maybe. You're late, he said. 29 minutes, 30 seconds. You're impossible, Riley countered. Normal people don't show up unannounced. I'm not normal people. He opened the car door. Shall we? Riley hesitated for just a moment, then slid into the car. This was happening. She was having breakfast with Dante Marchesi. Her life had officially become surreal. They drove to a small Italian cafe in a neighborhood. Riley rarely visited the kind where restaurants didn't have prices on the menu, and everyone spoke in hushed, respectful tones. The owner greeted Dante like family, ushering them to a private table in the back corner. Mr. Marchesi, so good to see you. Your usual? Please, Antonio. And whatever the lady would like. Riley ordered an omelet, her stomach growling despite her nerves. When had she last eaten? Yesterday's lunch break? The day before? When they were alone, Dante studied her across the table. You look exhausted. You really know how to charm a woman. His mouth quirked. I mean, you look like you haven't slept properly in weeks. When was your last day off? Riley had to think about it. 3 weeks ago? Maybe 4? That's not sustainable. That's my life. She met his eyes. Not all of us have the luxury of sleeping when we're tired. No, Dante agreed. Some of us just have different reasons for not sleeping. Something in his tone made Riley look at him more carefully. Despite his composed exterior, there were shadows under his eyes, tension in his jaw. He carried his own exhaustion, just better hidden. How is Sophia this morning? Really? Dante's expression softened immediately, signing non-stop about the nice nurse who gave her a purple cast. She's decorated it already, stickers of stars and moons. She wants to show you. I'd love to see it. Good. Because I told her you'd come to the house this afternoon. Riley blinked. You told her what? That you'd visit. Around 3, if that works with your schedule. Dante sipped his espresso, completely unbothered by her surprise. She's been asking since 6 a.m. I thought it would be easier to say yes than to explain why you couldn't come. Maybe because I have a life? A job? Responsibilities? You're off today. I checked the hospital schedule. Riley's jaw dropped. You checked? How did you even? I have resources. Dante set down his cup. Look, I know this seems presumptuous, but Sophia doesn't connect with people easily. The deaf community in Chicago is small, and she's been isolated for most of her life. Our world isn't exactly conducive to normal childhood friendships. You're the first person outside of family who's communicated with her so naturally, so immediately. She trusts you. Riley wanted to be angry about the presumption, the manipulation of checking her schedule, but the genuine concern in Dante's voice stopped her. What happened to her mother? Riley asked quietly. Dante's expression shuddered. She died when Sophia was 2. Cancer, fast and brutal. My father followed 6 months later. Heart attack, they said, but it was grief. He looked out the window. Sophia doesn't remember them. I'm all she has. The weight of that responsibility, raising a deaf child while running a criminal empire, settled over Riley like a blanket. She understood, suddenly, why he'd looked so desperate in the ER, why he'd waited for her, why he was asking this favor. Sophia wasn't just his sister. She was his daughter in every way that mattered. Okay, Riley said. I'll come at 3. Relief flashed across Dante's face. Thank you. Their food arrived, and they ate in companionable silence for a few minutes. Then Dante asked, Tell me about your family, your brother and sister. Riley found herself talking about Tommy and Maya, about how their parents had died in a car accident when Riley was 19, leaving her to raise a 7-year-old deaf boy and a 15-year-old girl with college dreams. About how she'd dropped out of nursing school to work full-time, only returning years later through a night program. About how Maya was at community college now, studying to be a teacher, and how Tommy was in 7th grade and thriving despite everything. You raised them, Dante said. It wasn't a question. Someone had to. You were 19, and you were 15. Riley met his eyes. We do what we have to for family. You said it yourself. Something passed between them. Recognition. Understanding. 2 people who'd been forced to grow up too fast, to carry burdens too heavy, to make sacrifices that should never have been asked of them. How do you manage? Dante asked. Financially. Working overtime, raising 2 kids in this city. Riley stiffened. We manage. Riley. His voice was gentle but insistent. I'm not judging. I'm asking because I see you struggling. I see the worn shoes and the extra shifts and the neighborhood you live in. I want to understand. Why? The question burst out of her. Why do you care? You don't know me. We met 12 hours ago. Dante leaned forward, his gray eyes intense. Because you stayed for Sophia when you didn't have to. Because you worked past exhaustion to help a little girl feel safe. Because you remind me of myself at 19, too proud to ask for help, too determined to do everything alone, slowly drowning but refusing to admit it. Riley's throat tightened. I'm not drowning. Aren't you? The truth sat between them, heavy and undeniable. Yes, she was drowning. In bills and responsibility and exhaustion that went bone deep. In the constant fear that one emergency would topple the fragile life she'd built for her siblings. In the knowledge that she was failing, slowly but surely, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. I have $300 in my bank account, Riley heard herself say. Rent is due in 4 days. The electric bill is overdue. Tommy needs new hearing aids. His are 3 years old and barely working. Maya's tuition is due next month, and I'm short by $2,000. She laughed, a brittle sound. So yes, I'm drowning. Happy? Dante didn't look happy. He looked furious. How much do you need? I'm not asking you for money. I'm not asking if you're asking. I'm asking what you need to stop drowning. Riley shook her head. I can't. We just met. You don't owe me anything. No, Dante agreed. But Sophia needs you in her life. And she can't have you in her life if you're working yourself to death trying to survive. He pulled out his phone. How much, Riley? Dante, I can't accept $6,000, he said, as if she hadn't spoken. That covers rent, utilities, Tommy's hearing aids, and Maya's tuition with some left over for emergencies. Consider it payment for being Sophia's friend, for spending time with her, teaching her, being someone she can trust. That's not, it's done. He typed something into his phone. What's your bank account number? Dante, no, Riley. He looked up at her, and his expression was utterly serious. Let me help, please. Not because you need it, though you do. Not because I feel sorry for you, because I don't. I admire the hell out of what you've done. But because I want Sophia to have you in her life, and I can't ask that of you while you're struggling to keep your head above water. Riley felt tears burning behind her eyes. Pride warred with desperation, with need, with the bone-deep exhaustion of carrying everything alone for so long. I'll pay you back, she whispered. No, you won't. This isn't a loan. Dante's voice was firm. This is me making sure someone who matters to my sister doesn't disappear because life is cruel and unfair. Riley gave him her account number, her hands shaking. Dante typed it in, pressed send, and set down his phone. Done. Check your balance. Riley pulled out her phone with trembling fingers, opened her banking app, and stared. $6,000. 00 deposit. Completed. She looked up at Dante, completely overwhelmed. I don't understand. Why would you do this? Because I can, he said simply. Because Sophia needs you. Because you're drowning, and I'm in a position to throw you a lifeline. Because, he stopped, something flickering in his eyes. Because I want to. The intensity of his gaze made Riley's breath catch. This wasn't just about Sophia. Somehow, in the span of 12 hours, she'd become something to Dante Marchesi, something he wanted to protect. Thank you, she managed. There aren't words. Then don't say anything. Just come see Sophia at 3. That's all the thanks I need. The Marchesi estate was in Lincoln Park, hidden behind high walls and iron gates that opened only after the driver spoke into an intercom. The house itself was stunning, 3 stories of stone and glass, with manicured grounds and a circular driveway that could have fit Riley's entire apartment building. Riley felt completely out of place in her jeans and sweater, clutching the small bag of art supplies she'd picked up on the way. Markers and stickers for decorating Sophia's cast. It seemed inadequate now, looking at this level of wealth. Dante met her at the door. He'd changed into slacks and a gray sweater that matched his eyes, looking casual and dangerous all at once. "She's been watching the window for the past hour," he said, amusement in his voice. "I thought she might wear a hole in the glass." As if on cue, Sophia appeared behind him, her face lighting up when she saw Riley. She signed rapidly, her casted arm not slowing her down at all. "Riley! You came! I was worried you forgot about me." Riley knelt down to Sophia's level, signing back. "I would never forget about you, sweet girl. How's your arm feeling?" "Better. Look, I decorated it." Sophia thrust out her purple cast, now covered in stickers of stars, moons, unicorns, and butterflies. "Do you like it?" "I love it. You have excellent taste." Riley pulled out her bag. "But I brought some special markers if you want to add more decorations. And some glow-in-the-dark stars." Sophia's eyes went wide. She looked up at Dante, signing frantically. "Can Riley stay for dinner? Please? Please, please, please?" Dante's eyes met Riley's over Sophia's head. "Can you?" Riley should say no, should maintain boundaries, should not spend more time in this beautiful house with this dangerous man and his sweet sister. "I'd love to," she said instead. Sophia squealed silently and grabbed Riley's hand, pulling her into the house. Riley caught a glimpse of marble floors, art on the walls, a sweeping staircase before Sophia dragged her toward what appeared to be a family room. Dante followed, a small smile playing at his lips. The next few hours passed in a blur. Riley and Sophia decorated the cast with glow-in-the-dark stars and inspirational messages in both English and ASL hand shapes. They played board games. Sophia was ruthless at Monopoly. They watched a movie with subtitles. Sophia curled against Riley's side, like they'd known each other for years instead of hours. Dante watched from the doorway periodically, his expression unreadable but his eyes soft. When Sophia fell asleep during the movie, her head on Riley's lap, Dante entered the room quietly. "She hasn't done this with anyone since my mother died," he said softly. "Trust someone so quickly. Let them close." Riley looked down at the sleeping girl, her heart expanding in her chest. "She's special. So are you." Dante sat on the other side of the couch. "She knows it. I know it." Riley's pulse quickened. "Dante, I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable," he said. "I'm just stating a fact. You're special, Riley Chen, and I find myself wanting to know everything about you." "Why?" Riley whispered. Dante's eyes held hers. "Because when I look at you, I see someone real. Someone who cares about people for who they are, not what they can do for you. Someone who works herself to exhaustion for her family without complaint. Someone who signs with my sister like she's the most important person in the world." He paused. "That's rare in my world. You're rare." Riley's mouth went dry. "Your world is dangerous." "Yes, you're dangerous." "Yes." No hesitation, no denial. "I should be smart, should walk away now." "Probably." Dante's gaze never wavered. "Are you going to?" Riley looked down at Sophia, sleeping peacefully, looked at the cast they decorated together, looked at the glow in the dark stars that would light up her room tonight, looked at the $6,000 that had appeared in her account like magic, removing a weight she'd been carrying for so long, looked at Dante Marchesi, who watched her like she was something precious. "No," she said quietly. "I'm not." Something fierce and possessive flashed in Dante's eyes. Good. Dinner was supposed to be simple. Sophia had woken up from her nap and insisted that Riley stay, signing so frantically that even Dante's stern look couldn't dissuade her. The cook prepared pasta, homemade, delicate, with a sauce that smelled like heaven, and they ate in a dining room that could have seated 20 but felt intimate with just the 3 of them. Sophia sat between Riley and Dante, signing stories about school and her friends, and the piano lessons she was learning. Her teacher knew sign language too, she explained proudly. Riley translated for Dante when needed, though he understood most of it himself. His sign language was fluent, if a bit formal. "You learned fast," Riley commented. "For someone who started at 17, I was motivated," Dante said simply. Sophia wouldn't speak. The doctors said she might never communicate effectively. I refused to accept that. His eyes found his sister. So I learned. And I made sure everyone in my employ learned at least basic signs. If they work in my house, they communicate with my sister. No exceptions. The fierce protectiveness in his voice made Riley's chest tighten. This was what she'd glimpsed in the ER, a man who would move mountains for his sister. Who'd learned an entire language, restructured his household, demanded compliance from his organization, all to make sure Sophia never felt isolated. "She's lucky to have you," Riley said softly. "I'm lucky to have her." Dante watched Sophia, who was signing animatedly about a butterfly she'd seen in the garden. "She saved me, in a way. After my parents died, I could have become something worse than I am. But I had her to think about, to protect. She gave me purpose beyond just power." Riley wanted to ask what he meant by something worse, but Sophia chose that moment to tug on Riley's sleeve. "Can you teach me a new sign?" Sophia asked. "Something special that not everyone knows." "Like what?" "A secret sign. Just for us." Riley thought for a moment, then showed Sophia a sign she and Tommy had invented when they were kids, their own personal shorthand for "Love you always." It involved a heart shape, combined with an infinity symbol. Sophia practiced it carefully, her face screwed up in concentration. When she got it right, she beamed, and immediately signed it to Dante. He looked at Riley, eyebrow raised in question. "It means love you always," Riley explained. "My brother and I made it up when we were young." Dante's expression shifted something warm and dangerous all at once. He signed back to Sophia, mimicking the gesture perfectly. Then his eyes found Riley's. "Thank you," he said, "for sharing that with her." The moment stretched between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Then Sophia yawned, wide and unrestrained, breaking the spell. "I'm tired," she signed to Dante. "But I don't want Riley to leave yet. Riley has to go home eventually," Dante signed back. "But she'll visit again soon. Right, Riley?" He looked at Riley expectantly, and she found herself nodding before she'd consciously decided. "Tomorrow?" Sophia signed hopefully. Riley laughed. "I have work tomorrow, sweet girl. But maybe this weekend?" Sophia's face fell, but she nodded. Then she did something that made Riley's heart skip. She crawled into Riley's lap and hugged her tight, the kind of fierce, desperate hug that children give when they're afraid something precious might disappear. Riley hugged her back, blinking away sudden tears. "I promise I'll come back," she whispered, knowing Sophia couldn't hear but hoping she felt the sincerity. When Sophia finally pulled back, she signed to Dante. "I really like her. Can we keep her?" Riley translated automatically, then felt her cheeks flush. "Sophia, I'm not a... please?" Sophia signed to her brother, her eyes wide and pleading. "She makes me happy. She makes you smile. We should keep her." Dante's eyes locked on Riley's, and she saw heat there. Possession. Want. "We'll see," he signed to Sophia. Then, to Riley. "Let me walk you out." After Sophia was dispatched upstairs with her nanny, a kind woman named Clara, who'd been signing goodnight to both of them, Dante led Riley toward the front door. But instead of opening it, he stopped in the foyer, turning to face her. "I meant what I said earlier," he began. "About wanting to know you. About you being rare." Riley's heart hammered. "Dante, let me finish." His voice was quiet but intense. "I'm not a good man, Riley. I do things that would horrify you. I make decisions that keep me awake at night. I operate in a world where trust is currency and betrayal is met with consequences you don't want to imagine." He stepped closer. "But with Sophia? With you? I'm just Dante. Not the Marchesi heir. Not the boss. Just a man who wants to protect the people who matter." "I don't need protection," Riley said, though her voice came out breathless. "Everyone needs protection." His hand came up, fingers grazing her cheek so lightly she might have imagined it. "Some people just don't know it yet." Riley should step back, should leave, should not be standing this close to Dante Marchesi, while he looked at her like that, like she was something he wanted to possess, to protect, to keep. "I should go," she whispered. "You should," Dante agreed. But he didn't move. Neither did she. The sound of footsteps on the stairs broke the moment. Marco appeared, Dante's head of security, looking apologetic. "Boss, sorry to interrupt. We have a situation at the warehouse. Needs your attention." Dante's expression hardened instantly, the vulnerable man vanishing behind the cold boss. "I'll be there in 10 minutes." Marco nodded and disappeared. Dante turned back to Riley, and she saw the shift, the walls going back up, the dangerous man reasserting control. "I need to handle this," he said. "Marco will drive you home. I can take the bus." "No." The word was flat, absolute. "You'll never take the bus home at night again. Not while I—" He stopped, jaw tightening. "Marco will drive you. No arguments." Riley wanted to argue, wanted to assert her independence. But something in Dante's eyes, fear, almost stopped her. "Okay," she agreed. Dante's shoulders relaxed fractionally. "Thank you." He walked her to the door, opened it to reveal Marco waiting by the car. "I'll call you tomorrow. You don't have to. I want to." His eyes held hers. "I'll call you, Riley, to check in. To arrange the next time you can see Sophia." A pause. "To hear your voice." Riley's breath caught. Before she could respond, Dante's phone buzzed insistently. He glanced at it, his jaw tightening further. "Go," he said to Riley. "I'll talk to you tomorrow." She nodded and walked to the car, feeling his eyes on her back the entire way. As Marco pulled out of the driveway, Riley turned to look back at the house. Dante stood in the doorway, backlit and powerful, watching her leave. Even from this distance, she felt the intensity of his gaze. This was dangerous. Getting involved with Dante Marchesi was probably the worst decision she could make. So why did it feel like the only decision that mattered? The situation at the warehouse turned out to be an attempted breach by the Kozlov Bratva Russian organized crime that had been testing the Marchesi territory boundaries for months. By the time Dante arrived, his men had the 3 intruders secured in a back room, zip-tied to chairs, bleeding from various facial wounds. "Talk," Dante said, his voice devoid of emotion as he entered the room. The youngest one, maybe 22, spat blood. "We don't answer to you, Marchesi." Dante moved so fast that even his own men flinched. One moment he was standing in the doorway. The next, his hand was wrapped around the young man's throat, squeezing just enough to make breathing difficult. "Let me rephrase," Dante said quietly. "Who sent you? What were you looking for? And why should I not kill you right now for trespassing on my property?" The young man's eyes widened, genuine fear replacing bravado. He gasped something in Russian. "English," Dante commanded, not loosening his grip. "Kozlov," the man choked out. "He sent us, looking for your shipment manifests. He thinks you're undercutting him on the waterfront." Dante released him, stepping back. "And you thought breaking into my warehouse in the middle of the night was a good idea?" No answer. Smart. Dante pulled out his phone, typed a message to his contacts in the Russian community. A clear message. "Stop testing me, or there will be consequences." Then he looked at his men. "Let them go." With a warning. "If I see Kozlov's people on my territory again, I won't be this merciful." After the Russians were escorted off the property, bruised and terrified but alive, Marco approached Dante. "You've gotten soft, boss. 2 years ago, they'd be in the river. 2 years ago, I didn't have Sophia asking me questions about violence and right and wrong." Dante's jaw tightened. "I can't be that man anymore. Not completely." "And the nurse?" Marco asked carefully. "Riley. She's making you softer too?" Dante turned to face his oldest friend. "She's making me remember there's more to life than just surviving, than just accumulating power and eliminating threats. That's dangerous in our world." "Maybe." Dante looked out at the Chicago skyline. "Or maybe it's exactly what I need." He pulled out his phone and typed a message. "Dante, home safe. Sophia is sleeping with the glow in the dark stars you gave her lighting up her room. She says they're magic." Riley's response came quickly. "Riley, I'm glad she liked them. Thank you for dinner. And for everything. Dante, thank you for staying, for spending time with her, for being patient and kind." A pause then. "Dante, for being you." Riley, "Dante. Dante, I know. Too much, too fast. But I don't know how to be anything but direct. And the truth is, I can't stop thinking about you." Riley's response took longer this time. "Riley, this is complicated." Dante, "Yes." Riley, "You're dangerous." Dante, "Yes." Riley, "I have responsibilities. A family to protect. A life that doesn't fit with yours." Dante, "I know. But maybe we can find a way to make it fit anyway." Riley, "Why? Why me?" Dante stared at that question for a long moment. Why her? Because she'd stayed for Sophia. Because she'd looked at him and seen a man, not a monster. Because when she smiled, something in his chest loosened, something that had been tight since his father died. Because she reminded him that beneath the blood and the business and the burden of leadership, he was still human. Dante. Because when I'm with you, I remember who I wanted to be before life made me into this. Because Sophia hasn't smiled this much in years. Because you make me want to be better. Dante. And because I haven't felt this way about anyone since I was too young to know what it meant. His phone rang instead of a text coming through. Riley's name on the screen. Hello? Dante answered. That's not fair, Riley said, her voice soft but shaking. Saying things like that. Making me feel things I shouldn't feel. What do you feel? Silence. Then, scared. Confused. Like I'm standing on the edge of something that could either save me or destroy me. I won't destroy you, Dante said quietly. I'd burn the world down before I let anything hurt you. That's what scares me. Riley's voice broke slightly. The intensity. The certainty. We barely know each other, Dante. Then let me know you. Let me take you to dinner tomorrow. A real date, not just breakfast or time with Sophia. Just you and me. I have work. What time do you finish? 7. I'll pick you up at 7:15. We'll go somewhere quiet. Talk. No pressure. No expectations. Just two people getting to know each other. Riley was quiet for so long that Dante thought she might refuse. Then, okay, but somewhere normal. Not a place with no prices on the menu. Dante smiled. Deal. After they hung up, Marco approached again. You're really doing this? Getting involved with a civilian? With someone who has no idea what our world is really like? Yes. It's going to complicate things. Everything worthwhile complicates things. Dante pocketed his phone. And she's worth it, Marco. I felt it the moment she signed to Sophia in that ER. She's worth protecting. Worth pursuing. What about when the families find out? When they realize you have someone who matters? Dante's expression hardened. Then they'll learn exactly what happens when someone threatens what's mine. Riley's shift the next day passed in a blur. She couldn't stop thinking about tonight, about Dante, about the way he'd looked at her when he said she made him want to be better. She shouldn't have agreed to this date, shouldn't be getting involved, but she couldn't seem to help herself. At 7:15 exactly, Dante's car pulled up to the hospital entrance. But instead of Marco driving, Dante was behind the wheel himself. He emerged wearing jeans and a dark sweater, looking less like a mafia boss and more like a dangerously attractive man picking up his date. You drove yourself, Riley observed as she approached. I wanted tonight to be just us. No security, no drivers. As normal as I can manage. He opened the passenger door. Is that okay? Riley nodded, sliding into the car. It was different being in the front seat, being this close to Dante, without the barrier of professional distance or Marco's presence. They drove to a small Italian restaurant in a neighborhood Riley didn't recognize. Not fancy, not expensive looking, just cozy and warm, with checkered tablecloths and the smell of garlic and basil. This okay? Dante asked. I know you said somewhere normal. It's perfect, Riley said honestly. They were seated in a corner booth, and for the first time, Riley saw Dante truly relax. His shoulders loosened, his jaw unclenched. He ordered wine and an appetizer in flawless Italian, then turned his full attention to Riley. Tell me something about you that I don't know, he said. Riley thought about it. I'm terrible at cooking. Like, truly awful. Tommy and Maya used to call my pasta punishment food. Dante's mouth curved. That's criminal in an Italian household. I know. Your nonna would probably disown you if she knew you were having dinner with someone who can't cook. My nonna is dead, so I think we're safe. But his tone was light, teasing. What else? They talked for hours, about everything and nothing. Riley learned that Dante had wanted to be an architect before his father died, that he played piano but hadn't touched one in years, that his favorite memories were of his mother making Sunday dinner. The whole family gathered around the table. Dante learned that Riley had wanted to be a doctor, but settled for nursing because it was faster, cheaper, more practical. That she sang terribly but loved it anyway. That she was afraid of heights but loved the view from tall buildings. That's contradictory, Dante observed. Most interesting things are, Riley countered. Their food arrived pasta so good Riley actually moaned at the first bite, which made Dante's eyes darken in a way that had nothing to do with hunger for food. Tell me about Tommy, Dante said, redirecting. What's he like? Riley's face lit up. He's brilliant. Smarter than me by miles. He taught himself coding when he was 9. Now he's building apps, selling them online. He made $300 last month from an app that helps deaf kids learn math. He sounds remarkable. He is. And Maya, she's going to change the world. She wants to teach in underserved communities, make education accessible. She's got this fire in her that won't quit. Riley smiled. They're my whole world. I understand that, Dante said quietly. Sophia is mine. How did you manage? Riley asked. 17, running a... She paused, uncertain how to phrase it. Criminal empire? Dante supplied Riley. Say it, Riley. I know what I am. How did you manage it all while raising a mated 4-year-old? Dante was quiet for a moment. Badly at first. I hired nannies, the best I could afford. But Sophia wouldn't bond with them. She was grieving, traumatized, newly deaf, and unable to understand why her world had gone silent. His voice roughened. She'd scream for hours. Silent screams because she couldn't hear herself. It was the most heartbreaking thing I'd ever witnessed. Riley's heart clenched. So I learned, Dante continued. Learned sign language, learned about deaf culture, learned how to be both brother and father. I'd spend mornings with her, teaching her signs, playing games. Then I'd hand her to the nanny and spend the rest of the day managing an organization that wanted to tear itself apart. I slept maybe 3 hours a night for 2 years. That sounds impossible. It was necessary. Dante's eyes met hers. You understand that. You did the same thing. I wasn't running a... You were raising 2 children alone while working full-time and going to school. That's its own kind of empire. The acknowledgement of her struggles, the recognition that what she'd done was hard, made Riley's throat tight. We're quite a pair, she said softly. Both too young to have so much responsibility, both refusing to quit. Maybe that's why I'm drawn to you, Dante said. You understand. Most people in my life can't fathom what it's like to have everything resting on your shoulders. But you do. Riley nodded, unable to speak past the emotion in her throat. Dante reached across the table, his hand covering hers. I know this is fast. I know it's complicated. But I want to keep seeing you, Riley. Not just for Sophia, though she adores you, for me. Because you're the first person in a decade who's made me feel something other than responsibility and exhaustion. What do I make you feel? Riley whispered. Hope, Dante said simply. And something that might be happiness. Though I'm so out of practice, I'm not entirely sure. Riley laughed. A watery sound. You're ridiculous. I'm honest. She looked at their hands, his strong and scarred, hers smaller but equally marked by work and struggle. This won't be easy. Nothing worthwhile is. Your world is dangerous. I'll keep you safe. You can't promise that. Watch me. His eyes were fierce, determined. Nothing will touch you or your family, Riley. I'll make sure of it. The intensity of his vow should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel something she hadn't felt in years. Protected, valued, cherished. Okay, she said. Let's try this. Whatever this is. Dante's smile was genuine, transforming his face from dangerously handsome to breathtaking. Thank you. They finished dinner slowly, neither wanting the evening to end. When Dante finally drove Riley home, he walked her to her building, despite her protests. At her door, he paused. Can I see you again? Soon? You're taking me to see Sophia this weekend, remember? I meant just us. Riley smiled. Call me. We'll figure it out. Dante stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup her cheek. Riley's breath caught, her eyes widening as she realized what was about to happen. He kissed her softly, gently, like she was something precious that might break. His lips were warm and firm, and Riley felt the kiss all the way to her toes. When he pulled back, his eyes searched hers. Too much? No, Riley breathed. Just enough. His smile was small but satisfied. Good night, Riley Chen. Good night, Dante Marchesi. She watched him walk to his car, watched him drive away, and then stood in the hallway for a full minute trying to remember how her legs worked. This was happening. She was falling for Dante Marchesi. God help her. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of stolen moments and growing connection. Dante would pick Riley up after her shifts, driving her home even when it meant leaving important meetings. She'd spend weekends at the estate with Sophia, teaching her new signs and watching the little girl blossom under the attention. And slowly, carefully, Riley found herself falling deeper into Dante's world. It started small. Marco began appearing at the hospital during Riley's late shifts, standing in the parking lot like a silent guardian. When Riley protested, Dante had been unapologetic. This city isn't safe at midnight. Marco makes sure you get to your car safely. That's non-negotiable. Then there was the envelope that appeared in her mailbox. $5,000 in cash with a simple note, for Tommy's hearing aids. No arguments. D. Riley had called him immediately. Dante, I can't. You can, and you will. Tommy needs them. Consider it a gift from Sophia. She wants her friend to be able to talk to his sister the way she talks to you. How could she argue with that? Maya noticed first. Riley came home one evening to find her sister waiting with crossed arms and a knowing expression. Okay, spill. Who is he? Who is who? The guy who's been making you smile like that. The one who has security guards following you around. The one who sent Tommy brand new hearing aids that cost $3,000. Maya's eyes narrowed. Riley, what's going on? So Riley told her. About Sophia and the ER and Dante. About the dinners and the time at the estate and the way he made her feel seen for the first time in years. Maya listened, her expression growing increasingly concerned. Riley, the Marchesi family, do you know what they're involved in? Yes. And you're okay with that? Riley hesitated. I'm okay with who Dante is when he's with me. When he's with Sophia. I'm okay with the man who learned sign language for his sister and who makes sure I get home safely and who looks at me like I matter. But he's still a criminal, Maya said quietly. He still does things that Riley, what happens when his world crashes into ours? When someone tries to hurt you to get to him? He won't let that happen. He might not have a choice. The conversation haunted Riley as she went to bed that night. Maya was right to be concerned. Riley was dancing on the edge of something dangerous, and sooner or later, there would be consequences. Her phone buzzed. Dante. Can't sleep. Thinking about you. Riley. It's 2 a.m. Don't you have mob boss things to do? Dante. I prefer legitimate businessman. Riley. Is that what we're calling it? Dante. That's what my lawyer calls it. I call it keeping people safe and making sure my territory runs smoothly. Riley smiled despite her lingering worry. Riley. Very diplomatic. Dante. I'm a diplomat. Come to the estate tomorrow. Sophia misses you. I miss you. Riley. I was just there 2 days ago. Dante. And that's 2 days too long. Please, Riley. We could cook dinner together. You could teach Sophia some new signs. I could show you the library. I think you'd like it. Riley knew she should say no. Should put some distance between them. Should listen to Maya's warnings and her own common sense. Riley. What time? Dante. Whenever you want. I'll send Marco. Riley. I can drive myself. Dante. Your car is 20 years old and makes concerning noises. Marco will pick you up at 3. Riley wanted to argue, but she was too tired. And honestly, the idea of not having to drive her dying car across the city was appealing. Riley. Fine. 3 p.m. Dante. Thank you. Sleep well, Bella. Bella. The Italian endearment made her heart skip. The next afternoon, Marco arrived precisely at 3. He'd become familiar over the past weeks, a constant, quiet presence who treated Riley with surprising gentleness. Boss is in a good mood today, Marco commented as they drove. Sophia's been planning this dinner all morning. She wants to make you something special. She doesn't have to do that. She wants to. You've become important to her. Marco glanced at her in the rearview mirror. To both of them. Riley felt warmth bloom in her chest. They're important to me too. When they arrived at the estate, Sophia came running out before Riley had even exited the car. She signed frantically, her face lit with excitement. Riley, I learned a new sign. Want to see? Of course. Sophia demonstrated a complex combination that Riley recognized as best friend. That's me and you, Sophia signed. You're my best friend. Riley knelt down, pulling Sophia into a tight hug. Over the girl's shoulder, she saw Dante standing in the doorway, watching them with an expression that made her breath catch. Possession, tenderness, something that looked dangerously close to love. Come on, Sophia signed, pulling back. We're making pasta, real pasta from scratch. Dante said you can't cook, so we're teaching you. Riley laughed. Did he now? Sophia nodded enthusiastically and dragged Riley into the house. The kitchen was enormous, all marble countertops and professional-grade appliances. Dante stood at the center island, flour already dusting his forearms, his sleeves rolled up to his elbows. Ready to learn? He asked, amusement dancing in his gray eyes. I'm a hopeless case, Riley warned. Impossible. Everyone can make pasta. He gestured to the space beside him. Come here. For the next hour, Dante taught Riley how to make fresh pasta dough. His hands guided hers, showing her how to knead, how to feel when the texture was right. Sophia helped by adding flour with enthusiastic abandon, getting it everywhere. It was domestic and perfect and terrifying in how right it felt. "You're a natural?" Dante murmured, his breath warm against Riley's ear as he stood close, guiding her hands. "I'm covered in flour. So am I. So is Sophia. So is half the kitchen." His voice dropped lower. "You're beautiful like this. Relaxed. Happy." Riley's heart hammered. She turned her head slightly, finding Dante's face inches from hers. His eyes dropped to her lips, and for a moment, she thought he might kiss her right there. Sophia chose that moment to throw a handful of flour at both of them, giggling silently at their shocked expressions. "Got you!" she signed gleefully. Dante's response was swift. He grabbed a handful of flour and chased Sophia around the kitchen island while she shrieked with silent laughter. Riley watched, her heart so full it hurt. This was what she wanted. Not just Dante, but this family. Laughter. Belonging. They ate dinner on the terrace as the sun set over Chicago. The pasta they'd made was perfect, and Sophia insisted on serving Riley herself, carefully placing each dish with great ceremony. "She loves you," Dante said quietly while Sophia was distracted by something in the garden. "I've never seen her attached to someone this fast." "I love her too," Riley admitted. "She's special." "So are you?" Dante's hand found hers under the table, fingers intertwining. "Come with me somewhere. After dinner, I want to show you something." "Okay." After Sophia was settled with Clara for the evening, protesting but ultimately agreeing when Dante promised Riley would visit again soon, he led Riley through the house to a wing she hadn't explored yet. He opened a door to reveal a library that took Riley's breath away. 2 stories of floor-to-ceiling books, with a rolling ladder and comfortable reading chairs positioned near windows that overlooked the grounds. A fireplace crackled in the corner, casting warm light across everything. "This is incredible," Riley breathed. "My grandfather built it. He believed that knowledge was the truest form of power." Dante moved to one of the shelves, pulling down a worn book. "I spent most of my teenage years here, reading, hiding, trying to understand how to be what everyone needed me to be." Riley took the book he offered. Poetry. Dante, the fierce mafia boss, read poetry. "Surprised?" he asked, reading her expression. "A little. I'm not just what people see, Riley. The cold boss, the dangerous criminal. I'm also just a man who wanted different things before life made choices for me." He pulled down another book. "I wanted to study architecture, build things instead of inherit them. I wanted to travel, see Rome and Venice and all the places my grandfather told stories about." "You still could," Riley said softly. "No. I have responsibilities. Sophia needs stability. The family needs leadership. I can't just walk away." His eyes met hers. "But with you, I can pretend. For a few hours, I can be just Dante. Not the boss, not the head of the family. Just a man who wants to be with a woman who makes him remember what it feels like to hope." Riley set down the book and moved closer to him. "You're more than your responsibilities, Dante." "Am I?" His hand came up to cup her face. "Sometimes I'm not sure where I end and the role begins. You're Sophia's brother who learned sign language and makes her laugh. You're the man who makes sure I get home safely, who sent my brother hearing aids and didn't ask for anything in return." She placed her hand over his heart. "You're here, the man underneath all the armor. I see him." Dante's eyes darkened. "Riley." She kissed him before he could finish, rose up on her toes and pressed her lips to his, pouring everything she felt into it. All the gratitude and affection and terrifying hope that had been building for weeks. Dante responded immediately, his arms wrapping around her waist and pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, his mouth moving against hers with a hunger that made her knees weak. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante pressed his forehead to hers. "Stay," he whispered. "Tonight. Not for anything but this. Just stay with me." Riley knew she should say no, should maintain some boundary, but she was tired of boundaries, tired of always being careful and responsible and afraid. "Okay," she breathed. "I'll stay." They didn't sleep together, not in that way. Instead, they stayed in the library, curled up on one of the large reading chairs that was just big enough for 2, Dante held. Riley against his chest while they talked about everything and nothing. He told her about his father's death, how he'd found him slumped over his desk, already gone. How at 15, Dante had to stand in front of the family and promise to be strong enough to lead them. Riley told him about her parents' accident, how she'd gotten the call at work, how she'd had to identify the bodies and then go home and tell Tommy and Maya that everything had changed. They shared their scars, their losses, their fears. "I'm afraid I'll fail them," Riley admitted as the fire burned low. Tommy and Maya. That one day I won't be enough, and they'll pay the price for my inadequacy. You could never fail them, Dante said firmly. Look at what you've accomplished. 2 kids, thriving despite impossible circumstances. That's not inadequacy, Riley. That's strength. I'm afraid too, he continued quietly, that I'll become my father. Cold and distant, so focused on power that I forget what it's for. That Sophia will grow up afraid of me instead of loving me. She adores you, Riley assured him. Anyone can see that. Now, but what about when she's older? When she understands what I really do? What I'm really capable of? Riley turned in his arms to face him. Then you make sure you're someone she can still be proud of. You find the line between protecting your family and losing your soul, and you walk it carefully. Dante's smile was sad. Is there such a line? There has to be. Otherwise, what's the point? He kissed her forehead, a gesture so tender it made Riley's heart ache. How did I find you? You didn't. I tried to pickpocket your sister's hospital room. Dante laughed, a real, genuine sound. Best theft attempt in history. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, the fire dying to embers. Riley woke to sunlight streaming through the library windows and the sound of her phone buzzing insistently. She extracted herself carefully from Dante's arms. He was still asleep, his face peaceful in a way she rarely saw, and checked her messages. 14 missed calls, 10 from Maya, 4 from Tommy's school. Her stomach dropped. She dialed Maya, her hands shaking. Riley, thank God. Maya's voice was panicked. Where have you been? I've been calling for hours. What's wrong? Is Tommy okay? He's fine. But Riley, there were men at the apartment, looking for you. They knew your name, knew about Tommy, knew things they shouldn't know. Riley felt ice flood her veins. What kind of men? Scary men. Professional. They said they had questions about your association with certain families. Riley, what the hell is going on? Dante was awake now, sitting up, his expression shifting from sleepy to alert in an instant. Maya, I need you to listen carefully. Take Tommy and go to Aunt Susan's in Oak Park. Right now. Don't pack, just go. I'll explain everything later, but please, just trust me. Riley, you're scaring me. I know, but please, go now. After Maya agreed, still protesting but frightened enough to listen, Riley hung up and turned to face Dante. Someone knows, she said quietly. About us. About my family. They went to my apartment. Dante was already on his phone. Marco, we have a situation. He rattled off instructions in rapid Italian, his voice cold and commanding. When he hung up, he looked at Riley. Tell me everything your sister said. Every detail. Riley repeated the conversation, watching Dante's expression grow harder with each word. This is the Kozlov Bratva, he said finally. They've been pushing into my territory for months. I've been diplomatic, trying to avoid all-out war, but they've just crossed a line they can't uncross. They came after my family because of me. Because I'm with you. Yes. No point in lying. Which is why you and your siblings are moving here. Today. Riley's eyes widened. What? Your apartment isn't safe. Neither is your aunt's. House the Bratva will find them there too. But this estate? Dante's eyes were steel. This is the most secure location in Chicago. No one gets in without my permission. You, Tommy, and Maya will stay here until this is handled. Dante, I can't just... You can. And you will. He stood, his entire demeanor shifting to the dangerous boss she'd glimpsed but never fully seen. I won't negotiate on this, Riley. Your safety isn't up for debate. You don't control my life. No, but I can protect it. His voice softened slightly. Please, let me protect you. All of you. Riley wanted to argue, wanted to assert her independence. But she thought about Tommy and Maya, about men showing up at their apartment asking questions, about the very real danger that came from being connected to Dante Marchesi. Okay, she whispered, but just until it's safe. Agreed. Dante pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Marco is already on his way to get them. They'll be here within the hour, with protection. No one will touch your family, Riley. I promise you that. What are you going to do? Dante's expression went cold. What I should have done months ago. I'm going to make it very clear what happens when someone threatens what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have bothered Riley. Instead, it made her feel safe. Tommy and Maya arrived 90 minutes later, flanked by Marco and 3 other security guards. Maya looked terrified. Tommy looked fascinated, signing questions at lightning speed about the cars and the guns, And why were they here, and was Riley okay? I'm fine, Riley signed, pulling him into a tight hug. Everything is going to be fine. Who are these people? Tommy signed, his eyes wide. Why do they have guns? Because they're keeping us safe, Riley signed back. I'll explain everything. I promise. Sophia appeared in the doorway, her face lighting up when she saw more people who might understand her. She approached Tommy cautiously, then signed hello. Tommy's face transformed. You sign! Yes, you sign too. And just like that, the two of them were off, signing rapidly to each other, bonding over their shared language. Maya, however, was not so easily distracted. She pulled Riley aside, her expression furious and frightened. Explain, now. So Riley did. She told Maya everything about Dante and Sophia, about the past weeks, about falling for someone she probably shouldn't have, about the Kozlov Bratva and the danger and why they needed to stay here. Maya listened, her expression cycling through disbelief, anger, and finally resignation. You're in love with him, she said flatly. A mobster. You're in love with a mobster. He's more than that. He's a criminal, Riley. And now we're caught in the middle of some gang war because you couldn't keep your distance. The words stung because they were partially true. I know, Riley said quietly. I know I've put us in danger. But Maya, he's good to us. He's good to me. And he'll keep us safe. You can't know that. Yes, I can. Riley met her sister's eyes. Because I've seen what he's willing to do for the people he cares about. He rebuilt his entire life for Sophia, and he's doing the same for us now. Maya shook her head, but some of the anger faded. This is insane. I know. We're staying in a mansion with armed guards because of your boyfriend. I know. Tommy is going to think this is the coolest thing that's ever happened. Despite everything. Riley smiled. Probably. Maya sighed, pulling Riley into a hug. Just promise me you know what you're doing. That you haven't lost yourself in this. I promise, Riley said, though she wasn't entirely sure it was true. Dante found Riley an hour later on the terrace, staring out at the Chicago skyline. He'd changed into all black, and something about his demeanor was different, harder, more dangerous. I'm leaving, he said without preamble. To handle the Kozlov situation. Riley turned to face him. What does handle mean? It means I'm going to make sure they understand that touching you or your family was a mistake they won't get a chance to repeat. Dante, don't ask me not to do this. His voice was quiet but firm. They came after you to get to me. That's unacceptable. There have to be consequences, or they'll keep pushing, keep threatening. Riley understood, even as fear curled in her stomach. Will you be safe? Something flickered in his eyes, surprise. Maybe that she was worried about him rather than judging him. I'll be fine. I've been doing this since I was 15. That doesn't make me feel better. Dante stepped closer, pulling her into his arms. I need you to trust me, to understand that this is who I am. I don't glory in violence, Riley. I don't enjoy it. But I will do whatever is necessary to protect my family. And you're my family now. You and Tommy and Maya. Riley's breath caught. Dante. I mean it. He cupped her face in his hands. You're mine to protect, mine to care for. And I take that responsibility seriously. He kissed her then, deep and claiming, pouring everything unsaid into it. When he pulled back, his eyes were fierce. Stay here. Don't leave the grounds. Marco and the others will keep you safe. I'll be back by morning. Be careful, Riley whispered. Always. One more kiss, soft this time. Take care of Sophia if she asks for me. Tell her I'm working. I will. Riley watched him leave, surrounded by his guards, armed and dangerous, and everything she should be afraid of. But all she felt was worry and love. Terrifying, undeniable love. The meeting with Alexei Kozlov took place in a neutral warehouse on the edge of both territories. Dante arrived with 10 of his best men. Kozlov had twice that number. Marchesi, Kozlov greeted, his accent thick, his smile cold. You wanted to talk. So talk. Your men went to Riley Chen's apartment, Dante said without preamble. Threatened. Her family. Asked questions about her connection to me. Kozlov's smile widened. The pretty nurse. Yes, we know about her. About your little sister, too. So sad. A deaf child. Must be difficult. The threat was unmistakable. Dante's expression didn't change, but every man in the room felt the temperature drop. You just made a fatal mistake, Dante said quietly. Did I? Kozlov leaned back. I don't think so. I think I found your weakness, Marchesi. And now we negotiate properly. I want the waterfront operations. 40%. In exchange, your nurse and her family stay safe. Your sister stays safe. Everyone is happy. Dante looked at Kozlov for a long moment. Then he smiled, a cold, vicious expression that made even his own men shift uncomfortably. No. No? Kozlov's smile faltered. No negotiations, no deals, no 40%. Dante's voice was ice. What you get is this, a single warning. If you or anyone connected to you comes within 100 yards of Riley Chen, her siblings, or my sister, I will dismantle your entire operation. I will destroy every business you own. I will make sure every family from here to New York knows that you broke the most sacred rule: you threatened children to gain leverage. You think you can do that? Kozlov's face flushed with anger. I know I can. Dante pulled out his phone, pulled up photos, and slid it across the table. That's your daughter. Marina, age 7. Attends Street Catherine School. Lives with your ex-wife in Milwaukee. Piano lessons on Tuesdays, soccer on Saturdays. Kozlov went white. I would never touch a child, Dante continued, his voice deadly calm. Unlike you, I have lines I don't cross. But I want you to understand something. I know everything about you. I know where your family lives, where your money is hidden, every operation you run. If you come after mine, I'll come after yours. Not the children, never the children, but everything else? Gone. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket, with precise movements. This is your only warning, Kozlov. Stay away from my family, all of them, or find out exactly what I'm capable of when someone crosses me. Dante walked out, his men following. Behind them, Kozlov sat frozen, the phone still showing pictures of his daughter. The message was clear. Dante Marchesi protected what was his. Absolutely. Completely. Without mercy for those who threatened it. Dante returned to the estate at 4 a.m. to find Riley asleep on the couch in the library, a book open on her chest. She'd waited up for him. Something in his chest loosened. She'd been worried, had stayed awake, waiting to make sure he was safe. He knelt beside the couch, gently brushing hair from her face. Riley, she stirred, her eyes opening slowly. When she saw him, relief flooded her expression. You're okay, she breathed. I'm okay. He kissed her forehead. It's handled. They won't bother you again. What did you do? What I had to. He helped her sit up. Come on, let's get you to bed. Stay with me, Riley said, her hand gripping his. I don't want to be alone. Dante nodded, leading her upstairs to one of the guest rooms where she'd been set up. He lay down beside her, still fully clothed, and pulled her against his chest. I was scared, Riley admitted quietly, that something would happen to you, that you'd get hurt because of me. Nothing happened. I'm fine. But it could have. Riley. He tilted her face up to his. This is my world. I've been navigating it since I was 15. I know how to handle threats, how to protect what matters. I don't want to be the reason you get hurt. You're the reason I have something worth protecting. He kissed her softly. Before you, I was just surviving, just managing threats and maintaining power. But with you, I'm living. And that's worth any risk. Riley's eyes filled with tears. I love you, she whispered. I know it's too soon and too complicated, but I do. I love you, Dante. Marchesi. Dante's expression transformed, all the cold control vanishing, replaced by raw emotion. I love you too, Bella. So much it terrifies me. He kissed her then, deep and claiming and full of promise. When they broke apart, he held her close, his arms wrapped securely around her. Sleep, he murmured. You're safe. Everyone is safe. I've made sure of it. Riley closed her eyes, breathing in his scent cologne and danger and home. Don't let go. Never, Dante promised. I'm never letting you go. And for the first time since her parents died, Riley fell asleep, feeling completely, utterly safe. The next 3 days passed in a strange sort of domestic bliss. Tommy and Sophia became inseparable, signing constantly and playing in the garden. Maya slowly relaxed, though she still watched Dante with wary eyes. Riley found herself settling into life at the estate, helping Sophia with homework, cooking dinner with Dante, falling asleep in his arms every night. It felt right. It felt like family. On the 4th day, Dante called Riley into his office. He looked serious, and her stomach tightened with worry. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. He gestured for her to sit. I've been thinking about your apartment, about your situation, about the future. Okay, I want you to stay here, permanently, you and Tommy and Maya. He held up a hand when she started to protest. Hear me out. Your apartment isn't safe, and it never was. Even before the Kozlov situation, that neighborhood. He shook his head. You deserve better. Your siblings deserve better. Dante, I can't just live here. That's not... Why not? There's plenty of space. Sophia loves having you here. Tommy and Maya are comfortable. And He stopped, his jaw working. I don't want you to leave, Riley. I want you here. With me. This is too much too fast. Is it? Dante stood, moving around the desk. We're in love. We've already established that. Your family is in danger because of me, so I'm protecting you. Why not make it permanent? Because I need to be able to take care of myself. Of my family. I can't just let you, Riley. He took her hands. You've been taking care of yourself since you were 19. You've done an incredible job. You've raised 2 amazing kids while working yourself to exhaustion. But you don't have to do it alone anymore. Let me help. Let me be your partner in this. Riley's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared. Of what? Of losing myself. Of becoming dependent on you. Of what happens if... She couldn't finish the sentence. If I die? Dante supplied quietly. If something happens to me? She nodded. Then I make sure you're taken care of. You, Tommy, Maya, Sophia. I've already set up trusts, legal protections. If anything happens to me, you'll all be provided for. He cupped her face. But Riley, I'm not planning on dying. I'm planning on spending the rest of my life with you. Is that a proposal? Not yet. His smile was soft. When I propose, you'll know. But yes, eventually, that's where this is heading. If you'll have me. Riley laughed through her tears. You're impossible. I'm in love. There's a difference. He kissed her gently. Stay. Please. Not as my kept woman or my charity case. As my partner. As Sophia's friend. As part of this family. Riley looked into his gray eyes and saw her future. Saw mornings with Sophia and Dante. Saw Tommy and Maya thriving. Saw safety and love and belonging. Okay, she whispered. We'll stay. Dante's smile was brilliant. Thank you. He kissed her again, and Riley felt the last of her resistance crumble. This was her life now. This strange, complicated, beautiful life, with a man who'd learned sign language for his sister and moved mountains to keep the people he loved safe. She was home. 6 months later, Riley stood on the terrace watching the sunset. Tommy and Sophia were in the garden, signing and laughing. Maya was inside, helping Dante's cook, prepare dinner while arguing good-naturedly about seasoning. Dante appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Happy? He murmured against her hair. Terrifyingly so, Riley admitted. Good. He turned her to face him, and Riley saw something in his expression, nervousness maybe, anticipation. What's going on? Dante pulled a small box from his pocket, opened it to reveal a ring, simple, elegant, perfect. Marry me, he said. Not a question. Never a question with Dante. But his eyes held vulnerability. Hope. Riley's hands flew to her mouth. Dante, I told you when I proposed, you'd know. So here it is. Marry me, Riley Chen. Be my wife. Be Sophia's sister. Let me spend the rest of my life protecting you and loving you, and being grateful every single day that you tried to pickpocket the wrong person in that ER. Riley laughed, tears streaming down her face. Yes, God, yes. Dante slipped the ring on her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that made her toes curl. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. I love you, he whispered. I love you too. Behind them, Sophia and Tommy erupted into silent cheers, having witnessed the whole thing. Maya appeared in the doorway, tears in her eyes but smiling. This was family. This strange, complicated, perfect family that had formed from tragedy and need and unexpected love. Riley looked at the ring on her finger, at the man holding her close, at the children playing in the garden, at her sister smiling despite her earlier reservations. 5 seconds. That's how long it had taken her to sign to Sophia in that ER. 5 seconds that had changed everything. 5 seconds that had led her here. Home. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.